Where do you think you're going? Don't you know it's dark outside? Where do you think you're going? Don't you care about my pride? Where do you think you're going?
Mr. Ko! Oh.
Good morning, Mr. Kim. I'm sorry. I didn't make it into Gwangju yesterday. I couldn't call any of the students.
I see. Did you hear the helicopters last night? We heard that the military has returned. Where are you going now?
To Naju, to the health center. I'll try to call the Peace Corps in Seoul from there.
Mr. Ko, you must be very careful. We don't know what happened last night, but it's probably not a good sign.
I'll be careful.
No buses were running, so I rode my bike. When I got to Naju, I discovered the phones weren't working there either. So I decided to go to Gwangju. I rode past buses with dozens of bullet holes, blood everywhere, and as I cycled, the words of the halmoni outside the Gwangju post office came back to me.
You must tell our story!
She was right. The world beyond Korea had no idea what had happened. In fact, no one except the perpetrators knew what happened to the people on the bullet-penetrated buses. We needed witnesses. I made it back to Tim's house.
Oh, you're back. Come in.
Thank you.
No one's home. They've gone to rally in front of the provincial building.
Some of the Hohewan families have students in Gwangju. They're worried. I have a favor. Could you call them to make sure they're okay?
Sure. I'm off out, but I will call when I get back.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
I headed to the center of town. There was a massive crowd filling the central, plaza-like area around the large fountain in front of the provincial building. And after a search of the crowd, I realized that there was no way to find Tim here. I was starving and searched for a kage to get some food. Ramen and kimchi brought a sense of normalcy and familiarity to the late afternoon. Then I returned to Tim's house.
Paul, it's good to see you.
Hey, Dave. When did you arrive? Hey, Okjin.
Hey, just a couple of hours ago.
Where's Judy?
She's back at her place. Have you heard what they're saying about the massacre on the news?
No, what?
They're calling the demonstrators communists and saying that they're sympathetic to North Korea.
What? That's complete BS.
The announcer said that riotous students destroyed property and loyal troops are trying to keep the peace.
What about the killings, the atrocities?
No mention. All blame is being put on the students.
They're saying it's the evil influence of North Korea.
What the hell? Is that what the government is saying about Sunday?
Yeah, that's what they've been saying.
Does anyone outside of Gwangju know what really happened?
No, we don't think so. It seems that Chun wants to isolate us. I can't stand it!
If Koreans and the rest of the country knew of the massacre, they, or at least the students, would be demonstrating in every city on every day.
The military's not going to let the people of Gwangju stay in control for long. They're going to move back in and take control. It's just a matter of when.
Agreed. The question isn't will the military retaliate, but when. From the rally today, it's clear there's little interest in giving up.
That TV broadcast is really going to piss people off.
Yep, but then what happens?
I've no idea, but there's no way the people can hold off the military circling the town.
Yeah, I know we're supposed to remain apolitical, but that's just not possible anymore.
Agreed. But we still need to figure out how to remain observers. We all know how we feel. Those a-holes who killed people need to be brought to justice.
I'm struggling to figure out what I can do. About the only thing I can think of is to talk to the media, but there are no media here.
Yeah, there's nothing. Except for all those lies on the TV about this. And I don't see how we can change that. Do you have any idea what the U.S. government's saying or doing about Gwangju?
No idea. But I can't see Chun moving back into Gwangju without some kind of agreement from the U.S. military.
Yeah, you're probably right, but Hell, that would make the US government complicit in the atrocities. Do you think the embassy knows what's really happening here?
Well, if they do know and do nothing, they're gonna get an earful from me.
Oh, you boys must be hungry. Here, keep your strength up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's no bother.
The city is surrounded, and there's no food coming in.
I feel like there's nothing I can do. Ajumani, thank you for helping us.
Don't mention it. It's difficult time for everyone. We're grateful that you are all here.
Many thanks.
사랑도 명예도 이름도 남김없이 한평생 나가자던 뜨거운 맹세 동지는 간대었고 깃발만 나부켜 새날이 올 때까지 흔들리지 말자.
I decided to leave Gwangju the next day.
What am I supposed to do? I want to follow the guidelines laid down by the Peace Corps. Don't get involved. Don't engage in political acts. Don't voice your opinion about local politics. Don't threaten our position as guests here in Korea. After what I've seen, how is that even possible? And am I even going to be able to get out of the city?
My ride out of Gwangju didn't last long. A new roadblock had been put up, a line of tanks and soldiers.
Hey, I'm an American Peace Corps volunteer. I live in Naju County and work at the health center. I said, I'm an American Peace Corps volunteer.
You cannot pass. Go back.
Why can't I go to Naju? I have work. I have leprosy patients who need care.
No one is allowed to leave Gwangju by order of General Chun.
I wanted to yell, "Why have you killed people in Gwangju?" but kept that question from exploding out of my mouth. I had no choice but to turn around. I felt useless, frustrated, and humiliated. I headed back to Tim's house.
They wouldn't let me through.
That's not a good sign.
Oh, man.
The military's going to invade soon.
I know, Dave. They must have a tight band around the entire city. What's happened here, and is still happening here, is completely unknown outside of Jeonnam.
Things may have changed. Dave and I ran into 2 German TV reporters today. Somehow, information has gotten out. Otherwise, those reporters wouldn't be here.
Yep. Now maybe the story can get out.
We agreed to meet with them at 8 tonight. They want to get our stories. They also want us to help translate for them.
Translating? For reporters? Would that be okay? Would that get us into trouble?
Tim and I have been talking about that.
Translating means we're not taking one side or another. We're only helping the reporters understand what people are saying.
Okay, so we're not giving our opinions. We're not going to be quoted, right?
Yep, we'll just translate what the reporters ask and what the people say.
But won't Chun and the military find out? I'm sure there are spies around town. If they learn that we translated for the reporters, we'll be in deep trouble.
Chun can rot in hell. The Germans want to interview Tim at his hospital tomorrow.
You know, I think we have an obligation to stay. It's an obligation to our friends here, to the people we work with here. We can't run away.
Well, if we all leave, everyone in Gwangju will know it. I haven't seen any other foreigners on the street.
Yeah, it would send the wrong message. People would think that we gave up on them.
Everyone here has really taken good care of us. They don't want anything to happen to us. They're protecting us.
Given everything we've seen, the only people we should be afraid of are the soldiers.
The notion of being a witness had seemed fairly straightforward a few days ago. Now it had become much more complicated and dangerous. It seemed as if the people of Gwangju had been cut adrift by their own government. The people of Gwangju wanted us as witnesses. The military didn't. It seemed that now, simply by being witnesses, we'd crossed some invisible line. There was no doubt what Chun and his coup leaders would say, that they would want us out. What would our own government say? Would they back us up? Would we be allowed to stay? A few hours later, we started to walk to the small hotel where the German reporters, as well as some reporters from the AP, stayed. Along the way, we made some decisions.
So we're all staying, right? We're all ready to translate.
Yeah, but you're going to end up with the lion's share.
That's fine. We'll each tell the journalists what we saw.
We are only going to talk about what we saw, not what we heard.
Agreed. There are way too many rumors floating out there.
We're going to avoid giving any TV interviews. We'll only do TV interviews if our identity can be masked.
Agreed.
We gathered in the small hotel restaurant, sitting around a table while the reporters started taking notes. Tim's experience was the most horrific, and he was the first to talk. There were no interruptions, and the Germans wrote furiously. One after another, Dave, Judy, and I told our stories. As I listened to the others, I realized that although we'd seen different things, we'd all come away with a common perspective of the wrongs committed in Gwangju. When we finished our stories, I was exhausted, and it seemed that everyone else, including the Germans, were equally fatigued. But for the first time, I felt I had a purpose being in Gwangju. The next day, Tim took a couple of the German reporters to the provincial office to meet with the leaders. I stayed with Robin, a photographer with Time magazine, and another reporter to see the temporary mortuary.
Yeah. Gotta go about this.
Over here! Over here!
Yeah.
Two young men got out of the front and opened the back of the ambulance. They reached in and pulled out a gurney with slow, deliberate movements. They stared at the body on the gurney with sadness, and I didn't want to interrupt them. It was hard to look, and it was hard not to look. I translated for Robin and the German reporter as the driver told his story.
We're friends from university. We were part of a group guarding the road to Hwasun. At around 3 a.m, a group of soldiers tried to invade Gwangju. There was a lot of shooting, and that was when Junshik was shot.
Did the soldiers get into Gwangju?
No, I don't think so.
Where is Junshik from?
Gwangju. We all go to Cheonam University.
How will his family know what happened?
We'll notify his relatives. We'll clean him. He'll be put in an open coffin. Then he'll be put in the mortuary here. Come this way. We keep the bodies here for a short time, mainly to get them identified.
There are more bodies?
Oh yes, most are at one of the hospitals.
How long do they stay here?
Usually just a few hours when the...
It seemed important to me to count the number of bodies. I counted boxes, content to deceive myself, even though I knew boxes and bodies were one and the same. There were about 50 boxes.
How was this old woman killed?
She was killed when the soldiers opened fire from a helicopter. No one has identified her yet. We don't know anything about her, except where she was killed.
She appeared to be resting quietly. She could have been the halmoni that grabbed my arm in front of the post office earlier in the week. I suspected that this halmoni, if she were alive, would have made the same demand of me. Bear witness and tell the story.
And this child was killed at the same time. We're trying to find the mother. We're not sure if the halmoni and child are related or not. You know, you're the first foreigner reporters here. Please, show the world what happened.
We headed to the provincial office to witness the meeting of the civilian committee, and then headed to the hospital to find more stories and to take more photos. In one of the wards, we heard a piercing cry. Inside a nearby room, a young man bent over a bed and cradled a young girl, only 12 or 13. Her body wrapped up, not moving.
What's going on?
The girl was his younger sister. She was brought here a few days ago. She had surgery, but she died this morning, just before her older brother arrived.
How was she killed?
I don't know, but like my son here, she was probably shot by the soldiers when they fired on bus and taxi drivers. The drivers were shielding people, trying to stop the killing.
We are sorry that your son was injured. Will he be okay?
I hope so. He's a student at Chatham University. He's a good boy. He wasn't part of the demos.
How was he shot?
I asked my son the same question. He said that he was with some friends when the military attacked some taxi drivers and bus drivers. You heard about this?
Yes, I heard about that from my friends. I also saw buses and taxis with many bullet holes.
What's happening to our country? Why are they doing this to us? We don't like Chun, but we were willing to let him be president as long as we were safe and our country prospered. We can't go back, but we don't know how to go forward.
I understand. Thank you. I hope my friend here can let everyone know what happened.
And I had a plan. I would try to get out of Gwangju the next day. Not by the roads, but by hiking over the hills to an area not far from Hohaewon village. I needed to do my bit and let the U.S. Embassy and the Peace Corps know what was really going on.
Mr. Kim, 여보세요.
Mr. Ko? Mr. Ko, you're back. Come in. The Peace Corps office in Seoul called. I told them you were in Gwangju.
The phone works?
Yes, it started working again yesterday. They want you to call them immediately.
Okay, I will. And I have good news. All the students on the list you gave me are okay. The ajabani at my friend's house called all of them.
Thank you. Here.
Thanks. Hello? This is Paul Courtwright.
Paul, Jim here. Am I glad to hear your voice? Where are you? How are you? How are Tim, Dave, Julie, and Judy?
We're all fine. Everyone is still trapped in Gwangju. I just got out today.
Are you safe?
Yes, I'm safe. I'm in my village. The roads in and out of Gwangju are blocked, and I had to walk over the hill to get out.
Can you travel? You should come to Seoul tomorrow. Use whatever form of transport you need. You'll be reimbursed.
I'll try.
Okay, when you get to Seoul, call me.
Do you know what happened here? The military killed hundreds of people, maybe thousands, men, women, and children. It was a massacre. What you've seen on Korean TV isn't true. There are no communist sympathizers. Chundu Wan caused this, not the people of Gwangju.
I just want you to come to Seoul as soon as you can. Go to the embassy. I'll meet you there. You can tell them everything you've seen, okay?
Okay.
You take care. I'll see you soon.
So tomorrow I go to the Naju Health Center. I'll ask them to help me to get to Seoul.
Travel safely. Tell them what you saw.
Thank you. I understand.
I felt lost. I sat down and started a letter to my parents relating the events.
Dear Mom and Dad, how are things? I got back to Hohaewon Village just a few days ago, and after a couple of weeks touring Korea with the Peace Corps. I was starting to settle back into my usual routine, but something happened in Gwangju over the past few days. And I don't want you to worry, but I can't. I can't tell them what happened. I just can't. But the world has to know.
After a few minutes, I stopped. I couldn't send this. It was not something for Mom and Dad. But I will tell the embassy everything. Mr. Moon, a taxi driver much braver than me, got me to Jeonju, and then I took a bus to Seoul. Jim met me at the embassy, gave me a hug, and we were ushered inside.
Hello. Yes, hold on, I'll connect you. Thank you. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, not here right now. Thank you.
It's good to see you, Paul.
Thanks for arranging this, Jim.
Of course. I've made you an appointment with the charge d'affaires.
I've got one hell of a story for it.
At least I thought I did. The embassy was abuzz with activity, but we were left alone, sitting outside the charge d'affaires office for the next 2 hours. No one ever came. We got up and left. I was shocked. How were they going to understand what really happened? Now, with my book and this drama, I'm finally telling the story the Halmoni wanted to be heard. Within a few hours, it was all over. The military invaded Gwangju, and the Gwangju uprising came to an end. My friends were safe, but no one in Seoul knew the truth. They accepted the military narrative. Eventually, I made it back to Hohaewon Village, but the military was watching me. They tried to expel us from Korea, but the Peace Corps director called their bluff. They backed down, and I stayed. In 1981, Peace Corps Korea closed its doors for good. I stayed and taught at Seoul International School for a while, and finally left in 82. I've returned over the years, but it was never the time to talk about Gwangju. But 40 years on, my book has been published, and I kept my promise to that Halmoni. America failed Korea and Koreans in 1980. I only hope that as an American writing this, both Americans and Koreans will better appreciate our shared history, our shared desires, and our shared pain. We have so much to learn from each other, and I'm continuing to learn.
have been listening to GFN's special radio drama, Witnessing Gwangju, written by Paul Matthews and adapted from the memoir by Paul Courtwright, featuring Paul Courtwright as the narrator, Arlo Mattis as young Paul, Michael Percy as Tim, Mr. Park, and Jim, Paul Matthews as Dave and Mr. Kim, Dana Han as Judy and the 할머니, Hyewon Lee as the 아주머니, and Daniel Springer as Eric and Okjin. Other characters were played by members of the cast. Witnessing Gwangju was edited and directed by Hyungjin Ro, Hye-min Sun, and Paul Matthews, produced by GFN Gwangju Foreign Language Network.